What's up, GameLeap? It's the Jizz is back at it, and in today's video, we are going to be revealing the 15 champions of the new patch 11.5. So if you want to know which champions to stay away from in the next 2 weeks, then the next 10 minutes are a must-watch. Now, with each new patch guides comes a wave of pro guides ads, but what also comes around is a bit of a shift in the meta. Some champions become instantly OP, and some become instantly trash tier, but don't worry, the Jizz has it all covered. Now, to make sure you have Season 11 covered, I can offer you something even better, and that's a subscription on our GameLeap website. You can get access to our exclusive Challenger tier courses, guides, and videos that are guaranteed to help you take your game to the next level, so get signed up, links as always in the description and comment section. Alright, let's get into it, guys, and starting off the countdown, we have a champion who, despite getting buffed in 11.3 and benefiting from the Cosmic Drive buffs in 11.4, well, they're still on the weak side of things. You see, for VLADIMIR, guys, and any champion who relies on healing, the fact that grievous wounds are more common than COVID makes it very hard to be as impactful as you would like. So yeah, despite buffs to Cosmic Drive and Morellonomicon last patch, the drive doesn't give you enough AP to really be worth in this meta, although you can still buy it for the movement speed, health, and ability haste, and the Morello's buff actually encourages players to complete the full item earlier now, so they get access to that 60% grievous wounds effect. On top of that, Kenpunk Chainsword was also buffed in 11.4, so there is even more of the GW. Now the buff in 11.3, just rewind a little bit, that reduced your Hemo plays cooldown, so your ultimate, to 120 seconds at all ranks, improved your overall win rate a tiny bit, but you are still lacking that old power of one-shotting squishies and entire enemy teams after a couple of items. It's actually become more worth to buy Rocket Belt and then Cosmic Drive as your second major item, so your playstyle is more about how many spells you can cast rather than the actual power of these spells. So yeah, there are certainly better picks than VLADIMIR in 11.5, guys. And by the way, the champions on this list, you can still play and win, of course. I'm just saying it will be harder to do so on these 15 champs. Right, now coming in at number 14, guys, just ahead of the Vampire, we have another champion beginning with the letter V, and this patch will be better than others for sure, but still, Varus is still down in the dumps. Now, the silver lining is this, guys. Mirror Mana is buffed this patch and will make your abilities deal way more damage, which is great. So if you're building Lethality Varus, which is the best build at the moment, it's not looking too bad. But the problem for Varus, guys, is actually getting to that point. Like in an early game teamfight, what do you do after you throw out your piercing arrow and maybe your ultimate? Not only have you pierced nothing because you don't do that much damage, you've got nothing else to be relevant. Compare this to a Jin or a Misfortune. You are going to get battered before you get to your Duskblade Mirror Mana Spike, by which point the game is probably GG. Now, Serpent's Fang is buffed, and this might be another silver lining. Not sure if you can have two, but yeah. This means you now reduce the strength of shields and subsequent shields to target you damage, and the shields are everywhere at the moment, so in games building this as a third or fourth item may be huge. But again, getting to this late game Legolas Spike is too difficult. The big popular supports like Leona and Alistair are a massive threat in lane. Assassins like Kha'Zix and Talon, if they sneeze on you, you die. So no doubt the Mirror Mana and Serpent's Fang buffs help Varus out in the damage department, but it kinda means nothing if you can't get to that damage without being 0-10. Now, just ahead of Varus, guys, we have a blue mage who, like VLADIMIR, despite benefiting from a couple of item buffs recently, is still underperforming across the board. So if you want to win from the mid lane in 11.5, guys, you have less chance of doing so on RYZE. Now, RYZE has been picked a little in pro play over the past week or so, and he can work given the right conditions. But guess what? These conditions don't exist in solo queue. You are fending for yourself, and it's hard to do so on RYZE. You are the most killable champion in the mid lane. Even with the buff to Everfrost, it may be easier to peel one champion off you, but what about in teamfights where there are multiple threats coming at you from all angles? Keep in mind as well that Seeker's Armguard and Zhonya's Hourglass are 100 gold more expensive thanks to the 11.3 nerf, and that is still in the game. So if you do need more survivability, well, you have to wait a little longer, and most of the time, this is time you don't have. The Jizz also wants to point out that Stride Breaker is getting changed, in other words buffed, so the dash range is increasing, so later in a game on RYZE, when you're up against a Darius with Stride Breaker or a Garen, like what are you meant to do? So a very hard patch to make RYZE work on the red guys, but if you do, massive respect. Now you guys are also going to get respect from the Jizz if you can make the 12th champion on this countdown work, and this champ has been struggling for, well, ever since preseason started at the end of last year. So 2021, guys, in patch 11.5, it's not the time to start playing XAYAH. Now, you may have seen her in a few pro matches recently, and there's one reason for it: to counter KALISTA, who is still a priority pick. So in solo queue, you can do the same, of course, and you might have some success, but it's not even your lane you have to worry about. Your ultimate is on a 3-minute cooldown until level 11, so what are you meant to do if you get ganked a couple of times or TP'd on by the enemy top laner? You just have to cop it. It's kind of like when you guys pump out the timestamps in the comments, the Jizz and co just have to take it. So even after buffing XAYAH's Blade Caller in 11.1, guys, which is your E, and Essence Reaver in 11.3, see, XAYAH's win rate is just 47%, and in high elo, it's 43%, which is one of the lowest in the entire game. Peeling supports don't exist, let's be honest, and even if you are super fed, what are the chances of your teammates playing around you? Very slim indeed, as are your chances of winning on 11.5 XAYAH. Now ahead of XAYAH, we have a champion who has fallen from grace in the last few patches, and 11.5 he remains at rock bottom. So despite getting buffed in 11.4, guys, Amumu is one of the worst junglers you can pick right now. You see, with the jungle nerf in 11.4, it has become more important to play champions who can smash through the camps quickly so you can keep up with everyone else on the Rift in terms of levels and gold. For the sad mummy, this is why you're sad. Your clear is slow as anything, you are very mana dependent, and your major items in recent times have been nerfed on repeat. Just think of Sunfire Aegis, for example. So in the big picture, this has seen Amumu go from a 60% win rate or whatever it was at the end of last year to around a 49% win rate now. And you might be like, oh, I thought this was going to be much worse. Well, if you play Amumu against players who are good enough to exploit your weaknesses, 44% win rate in Diamond and a 33% win rate in Master and above. Guys, just don't put yourself through it. Alright, we're now into the top 10. The Jizz is keen as mustard, and kicking us off, we have a champion who got battered in the 11.3 patch and is going to struggle just as much in 11.5. Now for KLED, guys, with just a 41% win rate in high elo, a sub 50% in lower elos, and in 11.5 your biggest counter, Fiora, will be even stronger because of the Stride Breaker buff, so the top lane will be scarier than ever. Can you guys remember 11.3 as well? There were nerfs to your 3 core items, Gore Drinker, Ravenous Hydra, and Steris Gauge, and these are all staying. And the fact it's now easy to get Grievous wins for every single role means whatever healing you do have from Conqueror in your items is well countered. Now KLED can no doubt work as a counter pick, but please ban Fiora, guys, and Darius, and Nah, and Garen. Oh wait, you can't. Now this next champion coming in at number 9, guys, well, those of you who may know haven't been happy ever since Seraphine got released, because your champion has pretty much become budget Seraphine. So for SONA, guys, 11.5 is going to be more of the same, despite Seraphine getting nerfed. The Moonstar renew and nerf, the ease of access Grievous wounds, the buffs to Serpent's Fang. SONA is struggling to compete in this meta, especially in high levels of play where she has just a 45% win rate. The early game, yes, you can harass your opponents, but one misstep, you're dead. And actually getting a lead in the first 10 minutes is hard enough, just because you're not like a Nautilus or a Leona, you don't pack any punch. So 11.5 SONA, guys, hard to W. Now beating SONA to the number 8 spot on our countdown is another jungler like Amumu who is underperforming big time at the moment, and even if you master this champion, your chances of winning are super low. Now in Kindred, guys, you are kind of like Amumu in the sense that clearing monster camps is too much of a hassle. You can get seriously low and it takes longer to clear those camps than other junglers like Uda and Hecarim. You know, you're lacking that AoE. Now what's also a problem is that though your ultimate is one of the best anti-assassin weapons in the game, it's cooldown is 3 minutes in the early game, and without it you are as vulnerable as any champion on the Rift. Not to mention the fact that playing Kindred well is hard anyway, because kiting and positioning perfectly is one of the hardest ordeals in League, especially in this meta where damage is pretty much everywhere. A 47% overall win rate, guys, tells the story. Now we're going back to the bot lane for this next pick, guys, and the tough times are not going anywhere for KALISTA. Now as KALISTA, guys, yes, Shield Bow got buffed in 11.3, but it did literally nothing to that win rate. The extra attack speed, right, put into Runon's Hurricane as well doesn't mean much either, and the issue, guys, well, it doesn't stop you from dying 10 times a game. You see, as KALISTA, your biggest strength is your mobility, but without peel and a QSS, it's near impossible to stay alive in teamfights and hard carry. Like these days, I swear every champion has some form of CC to cuck this kiting strength you have. Now I will say this, and this is the reason KALISTA isn't higher up on our countdown, if you can master her, she can work. She's even been seen in a few pro matches recently, but in solo queue where, yeah, peeling doesn't exist until high elo and there's a fed bruiser or assassin on the other team, yeah, you're still going to hit the deck. Okay, moving on to number 6 on our countdown, guys, and it's time to focus our attention back to the jungle, and this champion's path to F tier has been similar to Amumu's. You see, Zac was great during the preseason, and this was because Sunfire Aegis was absurdly strong. Well, the current version of Sunfire is 10 times weaker, and it's also the reason for Zac's demise. All of the nerfs to its damage means you clear camps slower and your fighting is weaker. Riot taking 100 HP off this mythic was also big because your whole kit revolves around having heaps of health. And finally, Sunfire Aegis' mythic passive changing last patch in 11.3 so that it no longer gives ability haste, well, that was the final nail in the coffin. Keep in mind, guys, as well, that cooldown on Zac is his next most important stat after health, of course. As I've already mentioned, the new jungle is far better suited for fast clearers, and Zac certainly isn't one of them, meaning you have to hope a lane or two is winning before you get to your mid to late game. And let's be honest, guys, does hope even exist on the Rift? Okay, we're now at the top 5, guys, and we have some serious champions to reveal, but before we do, one last friendly reminder from the Jizz to head on over to our website when I stop talking, because who doesn't want to improve their Summoner Rift game? You can be one of thousands with exclusive access to all of our fresh Challenger tier content, so join up and get amongst it. Links down below. So here we go, the top 5, guys, and coming in at number 5 is the second last marksman on the countdown. I promise you there's no more, and we can't run from the fact that your chances of winning on APHELIOS, guys, are not that high at all. All you have to do is look at the 47% win rate to know how hard it is to get a W. Now, Runon's Hurricane may well be 800 gold cheaper than when it was 3400 gold, but so what? Your Kraken Slayer or Gale Force Spike isn't quite up to par with Vayne's and Jhin Spike, and Riot fixed the bug in 11.2 where your Severum Q is dealing 100% of Kraken Slayer's true damage. Now nothing in this patch remedies any of these nerfs, and yes, he is sometimes picked in pro play, but that's because pro teams are on the same page, and the only page that exists in lower elos is, well, there isn't one, is there? Like, the problem is that unless you play perfectly, guys, and dodge every skill shot and CC in the game, it doesn't matter if you have Runarns a minute or two earlier. I mean, even if you have 3 major items, you're still going to die. Now, another champion you're going to die a fair bit on is coming in at number 4, and this one is a top laner who is close to a 45% win rate in lower levels of play, and around a 48% win rate in high elo. Now, this patch, guys, 11.5 GANGPLANK is going to have a real rough run of it, because Strikebreaker, yes, is getting buffed. So the Dariuses and Garens of Runeterra are going to be jumping on you from a lane away and tracking you down. Now, as GANGPLANK, guys, you don't get any mana or cooldown reduction from Sheen anymore, so you can't harass and bully your opponents in lane as much, and no mythic can help you compete with the best tops this patch, like Cho'Gath with Turbo Chemtank, Nasus with Divine Sunderer, Darius with Stridebreaker, Fiora with Stridebreaker. Like that pistol you've got, it might as well be one of those toy pistols you give your kids. So even if you do win lane, you get outscaled. But thankfully, there are 3 other champions worse off this patch, guys. Now, the top 3, and coming in at number 3, the bronze medalist on our countdown is the worst champion from 11.4, and yet unfortunately nothing this patch is going to help your AKALI mains out. Now, when Riot nerfed your Q in 11.2, guys, so it costs more energy at later ranks, and seeing as you max this first, this is important because you have less harass in lane and kill opportunity, and good players can take advantage of your energy problems. Then in 11.3, Seeker's Armguard and Zhonya's Hourglass increase in gold, so your defense doesn't come around quick enough, and also in 11.3, Lich Bane's AP went down. Now in this patch, 11.5, with more of Malmortius costing 300 less gold, a few more champions are going to be able to nullify your kill threat, and with AD Assassins getting a mini buff with the Serpent's Fang power, they are better as well. So unless you're an AKALI expert, 11.5 will be a losing ground. Now onto the runner-up, guys, to the worst champion in 11.5, and Riot have decided to buff this champion after taking away her legs in 11.4, and to no one's surprise, your legs on SAMIRA are not coming back. So Riot are increasing your damage growth and your Q's AD ratio at later ranks, but you can't eat through your minions. You can't eat through your teammates. On top of that, your dash speed is still slower than what it was, and your ultimate's cooldown is still 8 seconds, so in team fights, 1 ultimate is all you get. And this can be easily interrupted by the enemy team if they have their thinking caps on. So maybe if you're in bronze or iron, you're alright, but still your damage is actually still pretty decent, but your mobility, aka your legs, don't exist anymore. So making insane plays and not just winning lane, but surviving lane is a real effort. The Jizz personally hates what Riot have done to SAMIRA, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Right, here we are, guys, the worst champion in 11.5, and this pick is a direct result of a particular change in the 11.5 patch notes, so let's see if you can guess who it is. I get picked in pro play a lot, so Riot thought it would be a good idea to nerf me, even though my win rate in lower elos is around 45%. Thumbs up to Riot. As a result, my auto attacks do more damage than my nerfed ability in the early game. How crazy is that? Now, I am still a monster if I can scale into the late game, and this is why I'm much more suited for pro games, but in solo queue games, these are decided much earlier, and I don't even have a chance to get to my late game power spikes. With Serpent's Fang buff, with Qiyana buffed, and myself still being very vulnerable before level 6 and throughout a game, the Emperor of Shurima is certainly no Emperor in 11.5. Guys, this champion is of course AZIR, and what Riot have done is so whack this nerf makes no sense, and that Jizz sends you his condolences, but that was the top 20 worst champions of 11.5, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to smash that sub button and the bell. This has been Coach Ease, and until tomorrow's video, peace.